You recount some combat experiences in your book, the stress effect. And clearly, in that line of work, could be pretty stressful by definition. Could you tell us, if you like, a little bit about those combat experiences, and maybe even from a leadership and a stress perspective, how do those things kind of intertwine, especially in combat, which tends to put things in a very sharp focus?
Well, I think, first of all, you have to realize that leaders get stressed too. And I think sometimes in our training, at least the training that I had back then, was, you're a leader, you're making decisions, you're in charge, and your people might get a little stressed out. I didn't get a lot of training around, how to handle my stress and what to do about it. And, as a leader, I'm getting shot at too. And so, when you're sitting in the door of the helicopter and going in on a hot LZ, I mean, the same bullets that are coming at the people in the aircraft are coming at you, and they start coming through the floor and the sides of the wall. It gets your attention. So your stress level goes up. Learning how to not block the fear, but prevent the fear from interfering with what you're trying to do, and being able to stay focused. And there are a lot of techniques I talk about in the book on how to do that. And, for me, I think understanding what was going on the LZ before I got there, having more control over what I was about to do really helped me to manage the stress, because I discovered that if I wore a headset so that I could monitor the traffic on what was going on, because these were deep penetrations, so we might fly for an hour or more before, from the launch site before we got to the insertion point. But if I could hear what was going on and know if the LZ was hot, know what was going on, if they were prepping it, knowing where the fire was coming from, if it was hot, so I could start in my mind saying, wow, that's the side we were going to deploy to when we left, now we're going to have to go a different way. It helped me put myself in a more logical mindset and think logically. And that's important in terms of managing stress, and that where you run into the problem with stress is when your emotions take over. When the amygdala in your brain begins to run your decision making, you begin to have problems. The fear can overwhelm you. If you can keep your prefrontal cortex running your decision making, it tends to be more logical. So, when you were a little kid and your mother said, okay, calm down, count to 10, take a deep breath, all of that, whether she realized it or not, was designed to cause you to have to activate your prefrontal cortex with the logic of counting. So when you go back to the prefrontal cortex, it can control your emotions. So there are techniques like that of, in going into combat, of knowing what's going on, that can help you stay logical. And I found it, when I could do that, it was almost like flipping a switch. It was like, this is what we're going out to do. I mean, now I'm kind of excited. I feel the adrenaline rush. I'm excited and I'm pumped up and we're going. But I'm still thinking and making decisions, much more logically than if I let the amygdala take over.
I think it's fascinating that there's a chemical difference. There are chemical differences, and it's literally different parts of the brain that are responsible for different decisions, actions, emotions, and everything else, and that you can, to a point, control how you respond by using some of these techniques.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of other techniques that you use. One is you know that as your stress level goes up, you're going to begin to make decisions more automatically. You're not going to go through a long problem-solving process. It's decisions are made in nanoseconds, and you're reacting to it. So what happens is you need to ingrain the highest probability of success decisions into your brain, so that when it goes on automatic, you're making the best decisions, or at least ones that have the highest probability of being successful in different situations.
And I personally remember being uncomfortable with always being told, well, you have to have a very linear approach to decision making. You put all the pluses in one column and the minuses in the other, and somehow you come up with a number like it's American Bandstand or something. And I was relieved to discover this whole other, essentially, approach that we seem to use naturally, some people do, with intuitive decision-making. Could you tell us a little bit about intuitive decision-making and how that's different and maybe when that's best applied.
Now, most of the decisions that you make in reality are taking place in your unconscious. I mean, when the alarm clock goes off in the morning, you make a decision then to get up or to roll back over. In a lot of cases, you never think about it. You just do it. Go in the shower, to shave, to put on your clothes, to eat breakfast, to finish the coffee. I get in the car, I drive to work, very often not even remembering the drive to work. You know you left home, now you're at work, and you don't remember that 20-minute ride in between. You were making thousands of decisions along that way, and you were making them unconsciously. But you had made those same decisions so many times, you could function intuitively like that while you were thinking about something else. And it gives you the opportunity to be able to do that. But that's also what happens when you encounter a stressor. Going into combat, when the action starts, as soon as you engage, it becomes chaos. And your brain immediately goes into pulling out solutions that you're going to implement. It's not evaluating them very much. It's not comparing courses of action. It grabs a course of action, it brings it out, and you immediately say, this will work, and you do it. And all of this can happen in less than a second, and you're moving forward. But you have to have trained yourself to be able to operate like that. And that's one of the things that I tell civilian organizations all the time, that the best place in the world that I've ever seen to train for making those types of decisions is in the military, where you rehearse and you rehearse and you rehearse and you train and you do it till it becomes automatic, and the best solutions become automatic. Going to jump school at Fort Benning, by the time you're standing in that door getting ready to go out, it's automatic. You're going out the door. You've done it so many times. You know the commands. Once the jump master starts the commands, everything else is just automatic. And the next thing you know, you're outside the door and you're doing what you need to do outside to land safely. We train combat teams the same way.
Right, and it seems almost to help us push through, or like you say, it flips a switch in order to help us through the areas where maybe our emotions would take over or the stress would overcome us. And it explains some of the repetitive training that we do and don't always like.
Yeah, don't always like it, but that's the only way you're going to build it up. And paramilitary forces, police departments, fire departments, they all train to be able to react, to be able to look and pick up on a visual cue that automatically generates a decision. Don't go in that door, go in the side door, and it's quick. Move now, just before a beam falls inside of a house. I mean, it becomes intuitive. You're picking up on it. You're not really thinking about and processing the data that's coming into your system. It's being done unconsciously because it can be done so much faster there and give you an opportunity to move. When you step into an ambush with a team, I know in the old days they used to say, well, you turn and assault the ambush. That's not always the best idea because you're standing up. There are different cues that you get from an ambush that should dictate what you do, whether you get down, whether you dive to the side, whether you assault. What do you do? Do you run through it? So there's a whole range of options that you have, but you have to be able to pick the best one and pick it in a nanosecond. And you only get that through training and training and training.